Billions of years ago, the world was very different. There were no humans, just gods, demons, and monsters running rampant across the land. And among them was an old monk who lived atop a mountain called Flooded Stream. This monk was known throughout the heavens for his immense power, wisdom, and most importantly, his delicious meals. Every morning he would wake up with the sunrise, put on his saffron robes, and head down the mountain to gather ingredients for the day's feast. He would search the valleys for herbs, fish in the rivers, and occasionally wrestle a wild boar or deer into submission. And each night before bed, he would invite all the local demons, gods, and monsters to come to his mountain and share in his meal. It wasn't exactly a selfless act. You see, the old monk was actually a deity himself, the reincarnation of an ancient Buddha, and every night he would consume the essence of his guests. Don't worry though, it was always done respectfully after they had fallen into a deep sleep, and only ever the essence of those who had passed away was consumed. It was an unfortunate necessity. See, the old monk had been tasked by the Jade Emperor to collect the souls of all living beings in the world and deliver them to the Underworld. But with so many different kinds of monsters, demons, and gods running around, it was almost impossible to keep track of every single one. So that's where these nightly feasts came in. But one day, while the old monk was collecting ingredients, he came across a strange stone in the river that seemed to be pulsing with energy. It didn't appear to be any kind of monster, demon, or god, yet it also didn't look like any kind of rock either. Intrigued, the old monk brought the stone back to his hut and placed it on his altar. That night, he invited over all the local deities and demons and monsters and served them a particularly sumptuous feast. Then after they fell into a deep slumber, he approached the stone and began reciting a mantra. As he chanted, golden light emanated from his mouth, which engulfed the stone and caused it to crack open. And out popped the most handsome young man the world had ever seen. As the old monk watched, this young man got up and began to change. His eyes turned into slits, his teeth grew into fangs, and his hair and eyebrows disappeared. In a flash, he'd become a monkey. But not just any monkey, mind you. No, this was an otherworldly simian, an incredibly strong and nimble monkey with fur as black as ink, eyes like golden bells, and a tail that was as thick as a bucket. Sun Wukong bowed deeply to the old monk and introduced himself. The old monk smiled warmly and returned the greeting. Then the two sat down together and ate some peaches of immortality. You see, the old monk knew exactly who Sun Wukong was. He wasn't just any monkey. Oh no, he was the reincarnated son of the great sage, equal of heaven himself. And now that he had awakened, the old monk had a task for him. The Jade Emperor had recently decreed that all demons, gods, and monsters must be registered and obtain a noble title. But there were so many beings in the world that this was again proving to be a difficult task. And so the old monk asked Sun Wukong to take on the role of Heavenly Marshal, a job that would allow him to travel the world and grant titles to all the beings he encountered. Sun Wukong accepted the position with enthusiasm and set off to do his job. And he did it well. Over time, he became very popular with the Whenever he heard about some powerful monster rampaging through the countryside, he would rush to the scene, defeat the beast, and give it a respectable title. Soon, he was known throughout the three realms as the Great Sage, Eater of Heaven. But despite his popularity, Sun Wukong still felt empty inside. Sure, helping others felt good, but he knew that he was capable of so much more than that. One day, he decided to return to his old home atop Flooded Stream to speak with the old monk. And when the old monk heard what Sun Wukong had to say, he smiled knowingly. He, too, had once felt the same way, and he knew exactly what his disciple needed. The old monk led Sun Wukong into his secret library and pulled out a huge scroll. On it was written the title of a book that could grant its reader any wish, the heavenly book of life and death. Normally, reading this book was forbidden. After all, it was said that a mere glance at its contents could cause one to explode into a pile of ashes. But the old monk wasn't just any monkey. Oh no, he was the reincarnation of a Buddha, and as such, he was immune to the book's effects. He handed the scroll to Sun Wukong and told him to read it for himself. After all, Sun Wukong had helped so many others attain godhood. Perhaps it was time that he received a boon for himself. When Sun Wukong heard this, his eyes widened. That was right. Why should he be stuck as an immortal monkey when he could be a real god? And so he started reading the book. The moment the words touched his lips, though his entire body exploded into flames. The old monk quickly extinguished them, but it was too late. Sun Wukong's mortal body had already turned to ash. Don't worry, though. Just because his body died doesn't mean that he actually died. In fact, it was quite the opposite. See, since Sun Wukong was the reincarnation of a Buddha, even death couldn't stop him. With a wave of his hand, he summoned his new golden body, and with it, immense divine power surged through him. The old monk watched as his disciple ascended to full godhood, and felt proud knowing that his teachings had helped another soul achieve enlightenment. And that is why, my friends, we must always strive to help others. You never know whose life you might change. Although I must admit, Sun Wukong's story doesn't really end here. In fact, he went on to have many more adventures across the heavens and earth. And if you want to hear about them, then I have some great news for you. A certain someone has taken it upon themselves to retell all of Sun Wukong's greatest adventures in exquisite detail.